Winter sowing, what is it? During the cold, gray days of winter, cabin fever can start to set in. The days in the garden seem far away, but with the winter sowing method, you can do some meaningful gardening in January and February to prepare for those beautiful spring days in the garden. The official USDA definition of winter sowing method is a propagation method used throughout the winter where temperate climate seeds are sown into protective vented containers and placed outdoors to foster a timely, naturally timed, high percentage germination of climate tolerant seedlings. That's a mouthful. So let's put it in simpler terms. Starting seeds in mini greenhouses outdoors in the winter. Today we'll discuss why winter sowing works, what you'll need to do to winter sow, how to get started, and most importantly, how do you get your garden growing with your winter sown seedlings. So why winter sow? Here's some reasons to try winter sowing. It's inexpensive. Starting your own seedlings for your garden can be very satisfying, but starting seeds indoors can also be frustrating and expensive. To grow healthy seedlings, you need the proper environment, which requires control of light, temperature, moisture, and pests. If the conditions are not right, you may have problems with disease such as damping off, which is caused by a fungus in the soil, insect problems such as whiteflies, or tall, thin seedlings when the amount or color of light is not quite right. A proper setup and close monitoring is required if seedlings started indoors are going to grow to healthy plants for your garden. Winter sowing, on the other hand, requires relatively few inputs and relies on natural conditions of the environment to produce garden-ready, healthy seedlings. The low temperatures and fresh air prevent the damp off that can cause the seedlings to fail. Another reason is it's effective. Many types of seeds need to be stratified before they can germinate. Stratification uses cold temperatures to break embryonic dormancy that is present in many types of seeds, especially of plants that can grow in our temperate climate. Winter sowing gives seeds the proper conditions to break their dormancy and start growing when the conditions are right for that plant. This means that artificial stratification like nicking or scratching the seed coats of certain types of seeds is unnecessary. The freezing and thawing that occurs naturally will prepare them for growth. Another reason is you can upcycle your plastic containers. The winter sown method provides seedlings protection by growing them in mini greenhouses. These greenhouses can be made from containers you find around your home that you might otherwise recycle. Don't throw that milk jug or takeout container away. Use it to start your seeds. It's a good way to keep plastic out of the landfill. Upcycling to make your garden grow. What a great idea. And one more reason is that winter sowing method allows for natural hardening off. Because the seedlings are grown outdoors, it's not a difficult transition from the container to your garden. Supplies. What do you need for winter sowing? Choose a container to turn into a mini greenhouse. Use the rule of thumb when choosing containers for winter sowing. If the plastic in your container is not transparent, try the test to see if it can be used for winter sowing. Can you see your thumb through the plastic? If you can, the plastic will let enough light through without shading your seedlings. How deep should your container be? The average adult thumb from tip to palm is 2 inches long. Put your thumb straight down into the soil. If your thumb is completely covered, then the container is deep enough. Make sure to pre-dampen your soil because the water helps settle the soil down by reducing air pockets. This will give you a more realistic idea of how much soil is in the container. The deeper the soil, the more moisture it can retain. The same amount of soil in a shallow pan has a greater surface to depth ratio, meaning more soil is exposed to the sun and wind. Evaporation can occur much faster, so check these containers for moisture frequently. Another supply are the seeds you'd like to grow. There are many sources for seed to use in winter sowing. You can order from seed catalogs, shop garden sections in stores, or use seeds that you have saved. Some seeds are better for winter sowing than others. One place you'll find clues to if a plant is a good option for winter sowing is in its name. Look for names showing natural environments, wildlands, and other outdoor locations. And here's a long list of words that might give you a clue. Brook, canyon, creek, desert, dune, field, meadow, mountain, plain, prairie, river, swamp, valley. Those are all words that indicate it might grow well in our temperate climate. You also might find words in the name that indicate global regions of origin if they're temperate, like Siberian, Chinese, polar, alpine, Canadian, Russian, American, European. Then you can look into phrases that describe the germination requirements, such as stratification, reseeds, a wildflower, it will colonize, self-sow, you can sow it directly, seedlings can withstand frost, sow outdoors in late autumn, early spring, or winter, and if the name includes weed in it, like butterfly weed, or Joe Pye weed, or jewel weed, and milkweed. Those are all indications that those types of seeds are good for winter sowing. Native plants that naturally grow in your and reseed in your area are also good options. Trees, shrubs, perennials, and annuals can all be winter sown. Once you start winter sowing, you might want to save your seeds from your favorite garden plants so you can grow them again the next growing season. Leave some flowers to mature and produce seeds. When the seed pod is brown and dry looking, seeds should be mature. Heirloom seeds and self-pollinated seeds should grow into plants very similar to the plants that produce the seed. Hybrid plants will produce a variety of plants from the seeds, which may or may not be similar to the original plant. You may discover a variation that you like even more than the original. You also need a good medium for growing your seeds. So let's talk about soil. Any potting medium will work for winter sowing. Make sure you choose a soil that isn't prone to hardening. Soilless mixes are a good option as they provide good environment for seeds to germinate. Consider a soil with moisture-retaining crystals, especially if you live in an area that is dry in the winter. Avoid soils that say weed-free on the label. They contain chemicals that prevent weed seed germination. Those chemicals will also prevent the seeds you planted from germinating. Some mixes have a mild fertilizer added. These fertilizers are not concentrated enough to burn your seedlings, so they are safe to use for winter sowing. If you do use a fertilizer added soil mix, you don't have to worry about fertilizing before transplanting your seedlings in the garden. You can also use compost for winter sowing. If you're worried about weed seed and pathogens, you can treat the compost with boiling water. Fill a 5-gallon bucket halfway up with compost. Carefully and slowly add a kettleful of boiling water and cover loosely. The steam in boiling water will kill the weed, seed, and pathogens. Let it sit overnight to cool, and you can use it the next day. Keep in mind that you will also kill any of the soil microbes that might increase the health of your soil. The composting process itself should heat up enough to take care of your weed, seed, and pathogen problem if you use the correct ratio of brown to green and manage the compost correctly. The next step is to prepare your mini greenhouses. Containers for winter sowing can be recycled containers that allow light through, such as plastic milk or water jugs, 2-liter soda bottles, deep foil pans with domed clear lids, quart dairy containers, or even Ziploc bags. A clear plastic tub with a lid can also be used. Put smaller containers inside the tote to grow multiple types of seeds in one spot. You can be creative and use what you have around to upcycle into seed growing containers. Whatever you decide to use, make sure you add holes to the bottom of the container for drainage and at the top for ventilation. Make sure your container is clean. Wash the containers with hot soapy water, rinse and drain. If you're using a milk jug, cut around the bottom of the milk jug just below the handle. Leave a small area under the handle uncut to act as a hinge to hold your mini greenhouse together. Add about 5 or 6 holes in the bottom for drainage. You can use a knife to make longer slits for drainage, or you can use a heated Phillips head screwdriver to make holes in the bottom. One creative solution for adding drainage holes to the bottom of the milk jug is to freeze some water in the bottom and drill the drainage holes. The ice keeps the jug from collapsing as the holes are being drilled. With a milk jug, the opening at the top is enough ventilation so no more holes are needed. Leaving the lid off allows water from snow or rain in and heat to easily escape before overheating your seedlings when temperatures increase. It's very important to allow for adequate ventilation. If you do not, the warm air trapped in the container on a warm day will cook your seeds and they won't germinate. If you're using a Ziploc baggie, cut 3 holes in the bottom for drainage and leave the top open. Now that you've prepared your container, you add your soil. Pre-moisten the soil with warm water until the soil is slightly damp so the soil will wick up the water. Fill containers to 3 to 4 inches of soil. Then tamp the container softly on a hard surface to settle the soil and add more if necessary. You can go with the 2 inches for the rule of thumb, but the more you add, the more moisture it will hold. Add water until the soil feels like a damp sponge. You can check to see if it has enough water by just looking at it. Moist soil is dark looking, like the color of a cooked, very fudgy brownie. Dry soil looks dry. It's far lighter in color, and that color might remind you of a package of dry chocolate cake mix. Now it's time to plant your seeds. If your seeds are very small, sprinkle them on the top. Press the seeds into the soil to ensure good seed-to-soil contact. If the seeds are larger and require a planting depth of 1 inch or more, press the seeds just below the surface. Sprinkle soil over the seeds just to cover. Press down gently to make sure there is good seed-to-soil contact. If the seeds are planted too deeply, the germination rate may be reduced. Seed-to-soil contact is important to prevent the seeds from drying out once the germination process has started. Now that you have your soil in the container and you've planted your seedlings, you can replace the top of the milk jug or close up your container. This closed milk jug or container has now been transformed into a greenhouse. Secure the 2 parts of the milk jug with duct tape. Make sure you label with the date and the type of seed. You might want to consider a garden journal to record when and what you planted. You might even start recording the weather conditions such as precipitation, sun, clouds, wind speed, and temperature. This practice can help you see what works and what doesn't. In the picture, the label is at the top of the container. Since it will be outside in the sunshine and elements, the label may fade to a point that it is unreadable even with permanent marker. It is suggested that you also label the bottom of the container where it will be more protected. Another suggestion is to use foil tape. The label is etched into the tape and lasts all season. To water your greenhouse, set the container in several inches of water until it has soaked up enough moisture. Then allow the excess water to drain out of the bottom drainage holes. This gives your seeds a good start as you get ready to move the containers outside. You're ready? These containers are ready to go outside, and the question is, where should you put them? Take the containers to a protected area such as a deck, uncovered porch, against a fence or flower bed. Don't put the containers against the house or under the eaves. Exposure to rain and snow keeps them from drying out. Also, keep them in a place that animals won't tip them over. As you can see in the picture, they set the containers in a plastic tray to help prevent them from blowing over. Sunny locations work best, so the air inside the containers warms up enough to create condensation. Condensation is the indicator of sufficient moisture. If the containers do not show condensation on a sunny day above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, water the seeds by dripping water slowly down the sides of the container or setting the containers in water. If they're watered too fast, you might dislodge the seeds and cause a problem with your germination. If condensation still does not show, the ventilation holes in the lids might be too big. try taping over some of the holes. If your containers are holding too much water, the holes in the bottom may be too small, and you will need to enlarge them. To add more water, gently add cold water down the sides of the container. Water thoroughly, and the excess water will seep out the drainage holes. Replace the lid when you're finished. What next? Let nature do its work. The hardest part is waiting. As the weather warms, the containers will thaw and freeze repeatedly as winter gives way to spring. This action of freezing and thawing helps loosen the seed coat. Just when winter is about to break and you're still getting nightly freezes, the first signs of germination will appear. The seeds know when to germinate. Now is the time to check the moisture in the flats. On an above freezing day, open them up, and if they look like they need a drink, give them one. The excess water will drain away. Don't forget to replace the lids tightly. When do you start doing your winter sowing? Well, winter sowing is done in the winter. If you start too soon, there's a concern of a late season warm spell that will stimulate some of the seeds to germinate prematurely. They will not be hardy enough to survive the coming freezing temperatures and will perish. Sow trees, shrubs, and woody perennial vines at the beginning of winter. Get these seeds sown and outside early. Most of these should be outside by the end of January. After that, devote time to perennials and biennials, which remain semi-evergreen in winter. They are often among the earliest to sprout. Next, sow hardy perennials in annuals and cold season vegetables. Cold season vegetables pop up quickly. Try to transplant as soon as you can work the ground. They are very small seedlings but take off fast with light feeding, even in cold ground. Some other plants that sprout early are dianthus, poppies, daisies, yarrow, hollyhocks, asters, cornflowers, leafy greens, cabbages, peas, and some of the seeds in wildflower blends. Then, towards the end of winter, sow seeds of frost-intolerant tender annuals, marginally hardy perennials, and some summer vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, squash, gourds, and beans. When do you stop? You have to stop when it gets too warm at night. Some seeds really do need to have that cold weather to prepare them for germination. So how will you know? Go outside in the evening wearing just a long sleeve shirt and your everyday pants. If you feel that if you were also wearing a sweater or a jacket, you would feel much more comfortable, then you can keep winter sowing. If you think that wearing a sweater or a jacket would make you uncomfortably warm, if you don't need the extra layers, then you should stop winter sowing. It is now too warm at night, and the seeds that need that period of dormancy and cold weather won't get it, and they may not germinate. Remember to look for clues that tell you a seed is right for winter sowing. The natural plant names that describe environments and locations, names with origins in temperate climates, and the clue-in phrases from your catalogs and seed packets, such as frost-tolerant, stratify, self-sown, direct sow early, and natural reseeding. In the table in the picture shows a timeline of when to plant. You can start in January with perennial flowers and hardy annuals. In February, cole crops, hardy herbs and peas. In March, you can start annual flowers, tender perennials, lettuce, and tender herbs. As you get closer to spring, in April, start with your summer vegetables such as tomatoes and peppers. And then we get to when we can plant them in the garden. When the temperatures increase, your seedlings will emerge. As your seedlings grow, start widening those ventilation slits in the covers. Once a week or so, make the slits a little bigger. Eventually, you'll have more open areas than covered, and you'll be able to transplant the seedlings into your garden because they will be completely hardened off. If you don't want to cut your containers, you can open the tops a little bit more each day, making sure to close them at dusk. It's possible to put the seedlings that barely had their first set of true leaves and have them thrive in the ground. To transplant, cut the sides of the container, as you see in the picture, and then you just slide the soil and seedlings out. You can cut them into clumps like you're slicing a tray of brownies, and plant them as you would any seedlings you started indoors or from the store. They will compete against each other and thin themselves out. And one interesting thing you can think about is a solstice sow. Many people begin their winter sowing near the winter solstice around December 21st. And so they try and plant some different kinds of seeds. Seeds of remembrance. Could be seeds of plants that remind us of someone we knew and loved, but is now gone from our lives forever. For example, your grandmother's favorite geraniums. And another type of seed you could plant are seeds of life that would make fruit or nectar and invite birds, butterflies, and other pollinators to our gardens, maybe milkweed varieties for the monarch butterflies. Seeds of trees to grow trees that will clean the air we breathe, reduce excess sun on our soil, and provide shade on hot summer days. And seeds of faith are from plants that are from a zone beyond ours in warmth. They thrive where winter is milder. Give something more subtropical a try. Sowing them reminds us to take a leap of faith and try something new and fun in your garden. Some factors that might affect the germination rate are using older seeds, collecting immature seed, forgetting to check for adequate moisture, or containers overheating. However, the main requirements for outdoor winter sowing are selecting appropriate seeds for your plant zone and providing both adequate drainage and air transpiration. Follow these 3 principles and you are likely to have success. For more information, including seed lists, check out wintersown.org. Trudy Davidhoff is the person who came up with the idea of Winter Sown, and so that her website is a good place to look. These other websites also have a lot of good information.